Peace, peace. So, just waiting for Darren to hop on. Couple of things I want to touch on before he jumps on. First of all, thank you for everybody that has taken the time to watch Melanin Monroe, my film. Everybody that has left the reviews, like I appreciate it. This is definitely a piece of work that I'm proud of. And since we're talking about psychedelics, this is actually that was actually the first piece of art that I created since the first time that I worked with them, namely ayahuasca. Think Darren just tapped in. Peace, peace, bro. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How you?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Welcome to the show. We're gonna dive in real quick, jump into your story, talk about some psychedelics, Black liberation, the work that you're doing. Just gonna pause for a quick second and play a quick video from our sponsor, Connect Chocolate. So watch this. We'll be back in 1 minute. Young Black and Vegan is sponsored by Connect Chocolate, a small family-owned project based in Northern California. They are deeply committed to sourcing the highest quality, direct fair trade, indigenous grown heirloom cacao, honoring sacred traditions while making plant medicine accessible to those who need it most. Now, I've been using their product for the past year and I absolutely love it. I love the Thai manifest to microdose on when I'm going to get a workout. The focus that I get and the pump that I get is amazing. And when I want those deep meditations, I love the African Guru. And their mission extends beyond cacao. They stand strong with veterans and first responders, offering sponsorships and permanent discounts to support their healing journeys. Connect Chocolate isn't just about providing plant medicine, it's about building a movement rooted in trust, reciprocity, and community. Their dedication to this path is evident in their work, including sponsoring a fully deaf spiritual retreat in Massachusetts, ensuring that plant medicine reaches those answering its call. This partnership is about more than just a product. It's about a shared vision for healing, connection, and transformation. Thank you again to our sponsor, Connect Chocolate. I'm looking forward to trying out these other bars. Check out connectchocolate.life today. All right, we back, man. How's everything in London out there, Darren?
It's all good in the hood, bro. Let me just get something to clean this screen.
All right.
There we go. Yeah, it's all good, brother. The sun is shining. It feels like spring is on the horizon, and summer's not too far away. That's how it feels right about now. So what does that mean? When the sun is shining, it causes a vibration that raises, people's vibration and consciousness, man. So yeah, better vibes it's the best vibes that I've had in London since returning, man.
Nice, nice. I love it, man. Where'd you just get back from?
Well, I was in Southern Africa for the last 3 months. I've been back for about 3-4 weeks. And but yeah, like the body's here, but the spirit of mind is still on the motherland, man. Like
Yeah,
anytime space from the physical, I'm just like still there. I'm just still there, man. So yeah, I was in Namibia, South Africa, man. It was dope.
yeah. I'm in LA right now, but I feel like the same thing. My spirit is back in Bali, man. I spent a month in Bali last January, and like the amount of peace and nourishment that I found there was amazing. So I'm like, I'm already there. I just got to get the body back there.
I feel you, man.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you coming to the platform, spending some time with me. I see you've been on a media run. It seems like lately dropping a lot of different interviews, and I kind of found you around the same time that I discovered Kindi, which we'll talk about him. But just can you tell the people about you, the work that you're doing out there in London?
So yeah, man, I'm Darren Le Baron. As I say, man, I wear many hats. So, depending on who I'm talking to, they pull different, elements of my being. I guess in this place and space, it's in regards to, mushrooms and mycology. I have a background in working with young people and primarily those who've been kicked out of school, just come out of prison. Everything it used to be creative arts and filmmaking. Then I moved into food growing and cultivation, developing food enterprise projects in the community. So yeah, man, like as I said, I'm out here just like raising the consciousness and vibration of our people, and it's got to just beyond our immediate melanated folks, just,
Yeah.
whoever's willing to be educated and learn with the, the simple sharings that I have to offer, man.
I love it, man. I didn't realize that you were into filmmaking as well. Like, are you still doing that? What were you doing exactly? That's pretty much been my lane for like the last, over a decade.
Okay, man. So yeah, very much grassrootsy, community orientated. But, you know, working with young folks who have got that creative energy and teaching and sharing them how to channel that energy into music and or filmmaking and deliver a message. So I was doing that, you know, yeah, from the early 2000s. And I put a pause on that to dedicate more to the mushroom and mycology space. But with that said, yeah, I've been working on, you know, bringing the mushroom mycological knowledge and wisdom with that creative filmmaking element. And yeah, stay tuned, man. We've got some things happening.
I love it. I love it. And you say you just got back from South Africa, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Southern Africa, because I was in and around not just South Africa, Namibia, and yeah, a few other spots, man.
Okay, yeah, because I was there in 2020 actually volunteering and teaching film to some youth. So we did like a couple of films with them out there. So
Okay.
little overlap. That's dope.
How was that for you, bro? I'm curious to know, how was that for you, the teaching experience there, man?
Man, it was amazing. So it wasn't the first time that I like taught film, but to be there and to be in the motherland, which I believe that was like my third or fourth time on the continent,
Mm,
like it feels like it always feels like home. It's quite different than the experience in America, like the peace. You're not worried about anything. It was like all love. Everybody calls you uncle, and yeah, it was
yeah,
it was good vibes, man. To see their faces when they finished the projects. And so at the end, we actually like put on a private screening for them, so they got to invite like their families dressed up and everything. So these are like kids that pretty much don't have a lot. So to see them experience that was amazing.
yeah, man. No, I can relate, man. I'll say my two top top teaching experiences have been in the motherland, man. The very first one, which was in the Gambia, about 12 years ago, and then just again recently, man, I was in Soweto working in a community center with some young people setting up, you know, some mushroom enterprise stuff. And you know, I've done a lot of teaching with young people over the years, and like, but the teaching experience or the exchange is like second to none. And yeah, man,
Yeah.
just said those who it would appear that have got, you know, minimum resources around them, but you know, just got all the energy required to like kind of push things through. And I'm used to working with young people over here, as I said, like the so-called hard to reach, who are like not inspired to be in a classroom space. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and but yeah, these folks, these young people in Soweto, man, they smashed it. Like again, like just like really enthusiastic, taking the knowledge and information and willing and ready to apply it immediately. Ain't no
Yeah.
kick
I love it.
screaming.
That's actually where we were too. We were in Soweto. So
Okay.
yeah, we probably had some overlap with some of the same kids, man. And can you talk about, working with these like quote unquote trouble youth and everything? How have you seen like teaching them about mycology and mushroom change their lives?
Oh yeah, man. I've got like testimony after testimony now after years of doing this. You know, when you've got so-called hardhead knuckleheads, wannabe gangsters, and all of that energy floating around, and even before the mushrooms, before the food growing, you just take them out of that environment into nature, into the forest, and we see magic happen just like from that, taking them out of their comfort zone into a safe space. You know, when they can look left or right and they ain't bugging out that someone's going to do something, they're going to be attacked in some shape, form, or another, and then letting them experience the wonders, you know, the wonderful beauties of nature. And when they're like, "Raw, sir, look, man, there's a butterfly. Raw, look, there's worms. Raw, look at this, look at that." You're like, you see you. You're like, yeah, like, you know, you see all the bravado, and it's just like relax. Yeah, you just see them relax and breathe, man, and that in itself, you know, is, you know, important to their own central nervous system. It's important to mine as an educator and a provider. So like I've seen transformation, you know, just like taking that, because you know where we used to do a lot of our projects was at the edge of the local forest. So you
Mhm.
know, you know, it's like a 45-minute drive, you know, an hour on the train if you're taking by the train. Either way, you know, just taking them out of the place where, you know, their central nervous system and anxiety levels and everything is just on high, and like just seeing them like, oh yeah, like looking around and feeling like they can kind of relax and breathe. But then sharing and teaching with them, because the whole goal for us was developing food enterprise and mushroom enterprise projects with them. So creating tangible alternatives for them to make money, you know, because for the most part they were making the wrong choices. I always say that it's not even the wrong choices, man. They're smart choices that they make, you know, in the sense
Yeah.
of where it's coming from, as far as, yo, you're telling me to go to school to get a job to make money. I might as well just start making money now, innit? Like, rather than go through that. It's like, I get you, man. I feel where you're coming from, but the way you're going about making money may be more detrimental to you and your household and your family and all the rest of it that we need to consider. So by growing foods, I would apply the lessons that they've learned from the streets, the hustling, the wheeling and dealing, and just apply it to food growing, man. So it's like, all right, instead of bagging up bags of crack and bags of weed, we're bagging up bags of salad. And we're going to do like kilos and kilos of salad. And we're going to hit every street, every block, every boulevard, every restaurant, every hotel, any and everywhere that people eat food. And when we do the maths, everywhere we go, people eat food. So we got a product that is viable and can be taken anywhere. And all we've got to do is find the right cell, the right pitch, and make it happen. And so my goal was just like legitimizing the hustle. Like, don't think those skill sets that you've learned are not transferable. They are.
Yeah.
And we're just going to transfer it to another product. So when they start generating an income, and on several days, man, they were generating more income than the schools were paying me to go in there and teach them what they were teaching. That's when I realized I'm in the wrong profession,
Yeah. Nah, I love that, man. So the very first time that I worked with psychedelics, it was ayahuasca, and that was about 4 years ago. And one of the things that they told us, like for integration, was to make sure that we get in nature. And that's beautiful that you're taking them out there. Like, I'm in LA, so people come to LA for the beaches, and I didn't grow up going to the beaches or getting into nature like that. So like, I have to remind myself to get out there, and every time I'm there, it's the exact same thought that comes to my mind. It's like, damn, why don't I do this like more? And you find, like, when you get quiet, that's when you can hear like what the higher self is saying to you. You get the answers to the questions that you've been seeking. So yeah, man, that's dope.
Yeah, man. No, I really appreciate it myself. I can relate. I grew up in a city, concrete jungle, and although when I had those first experiences of going to the local forest, I was like, wow, this is only really down the road from me, man. And like, it's always been here. And I remember going to the forest with my homies, like when we was, 9, 10, 11, jumping on our bikes, going to the forest. Our goal was always like, let's start a fire in it. Let's break down some branches. We're whacking, playing sword fights, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And like, just that innocence of like going out and exploring nature without it being a thing. It's not like
Right.
we go to the forest for my well-being. Like, it wasn't that. And it's like, yo, let's just go to the forest and have some fun. So I was like reintegrated that into my lifestyle by way of a lot of the young people I was working with. Was like, yo, man, we come out and we have fun, and we called it 10 again. Like, me and my big homies, we called it 10 again. Like, remember we was 10 and we would just go to the forest for fun. Like, let's do that 10 again vibe. And that whole 10 again, going back to 10, brings us back to feeling 10 out of 10. This was like, yeah, let's feel 10 again, man. That's our concept of going to the forest.
Yeah, I love that. Like, that's a amazing idea that, I definitely have a passion for teaching young people, and giving them tools and everything that they can use. Like, so to do that here, what suggestions do you have? Because obviously, when we were younger, we didn't have all of these distractions. And
Yeah.
so, like, my nephew is on the phone 24/7, YouTube and everything. So how do we, like, encourage them to get back out there? Is it just like, just take them out there, and then that first time they'll get that experience and be more willing? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. Like, again, you've got to make it. Again, we're competing with PlayStation and iPhones and the internet, so it's not easy to keep attention and focus of a young person. But if nature and nature is amazing, isn't it? Like, you know this, we know this, and if you can, tap into their innocence, to that childlike exploration, want to learn, want to see something new. That's like where it starts, and then you start with where they're at. Like I said, like when we got the axes out and we got the scythes out, all these all these tools, and they're like, they want to get it and hit each other with it. But it's like, all right, let me show you how to use this. And yeah, we're gonna chop some wood. As simple
Yeah.
as, but it's like, because all they want to do is get that axe in their hand and they want to use it. But you can't chop over your young homie's head in it. Like, we're not doing that today. But we got
Yeah.
some wood to chop in it. Like, and there's like, as long as we teach you how to use it properly, that's the process. Because as you know, bro, you go to the continent, you go into the bush, and you've got 2, 3, 4-year-olds running around with heavy duty materials, and
Right.
like, in the UK, in America, you'd be like, I don't, health and safety and all these factors come into play. And then what you find out is like, no, like, they're taught how to use the tool. You know, they're taught, it's around them, they feel comfortable with it. And that's the goal, like engaging them in activities, teaching them new skills, stuff that they feel comfortable with and doing, but more importantly, that they're going to find exciting. And yeah, after chopping down 100 bits of log, they're going to be distracted and want to do something else. So you just got to have a range of different things. And like, all right, we got the wood. Who wants to start a fire, innit? And when we're going to start a fire, we can cook some food on it. Who wants to eat? You hungry? You know, it's like bringing all those elements where like somewhere down the line, like hitting down them woods, you're going to be hungry. What are we going to get? What are we going to eat? Oh, yeah, there's food out here, innit? Like there's free food. But yeah, you can't just eat any random mushroom. You can't eat any random plant. I'm gonna need to educate you about that. And then, yo, we can cook some food and we can make some drinks. There's some berries out here. You know what I'm saying? Let's find out what berries these are and we make a drink. And next thing you know, you got young people who would have been sitting playing their iPhone, eating KFC, saying, yo, let's make a blackberry juice again, sir. You know what I'm saying? I want to make that blackberry juice and feel like they're naturally connecting without, you know, having to force it. So for me, I've witnessed that. Yeah, it don't happen overnight. But what usually happens is there's a captain in it. There's a leader in the group. I always call them out. Like I'm like, because when they're like, this is dead, sir. This is boring. I'd rather be doing this. I'd rather be doing that. I could be on the block making money right about now. And I just like pull their card, you know, and just have the banter with them. Like, oh, see, you're on that following shit, yeah? You're just trying to follow the next man and do what the next man, like, why you want to do that? And they never have valid reasons other than it's just what they've seen. So I'm like, the next 45 minutes, the next hour and a half, whatever it may be, like do something different in it where you can go back to the hood and just share something different. And like, I can assure you that different thing is going to make a difference. And then what usually happens, one young person who grabs that and runs with it, the other youth's like, what? You like chopping wood, bruv? You like chopping the wood? And like, yeah, man, I use the axe. And then next week, there's two more of them saying, what, sir, can I use the axe? And I'll chop the wood this week, you know, and like, man, you just see like you just find the captains, man, and get them to lead the way. And like it's not my job after that, it's their job to kind of inspire each other.
Yeah, I love that. And so you're in the schools, you're teaching the youth, you know, how to grow. Obviously, you're not teaching them how to grow magic mushrooms, but that is something you know how to do. So my question is it the same exact process to grow the gourmet mushrooms as the magic mushrooms? And then can you also talk about like some of your unique methods of growing? Because I've heard you say you teach them to grow mushrooms on things like books and toilet paper.
Yeah, man. So ironically, bro, like the skills are transferable. So go back to the young people that I work with in the hood. Before mushrooms, it was just the food growing activities. When I was my first session, no matter what school, what group I'll be working with, as long as they was that age group, the first thing they're going to say is, this is some bullshit. I don't want to learn how to grow food. This is dead. This is long. But if you're going to teach us how to grow weed, sir, I'm interested. And I'm like, would you believe it, young boy? The skills are transferable. The skills that I'm teaching you today, you could go away and learn how to cultivate marijuana if you choose to. But with that said, what the skill set that I want to share with you, I want to show you how to grow lettuce. And although you might think lettuce, like and I do the various demonstrations with them to show them how much money there is in lettuce. This goes back to being a leader and not a follower. Because if we do a survey and we find out how many people smoke weed, and maybe in LA, for example, there might be a lot of people that smoke weed because I know the climate in LA.
That's a fact.
Right. But if we still do the same survey with the same people, and even if we found out that there was 80% of LA that's smoking weed, and then we find out, well, how many of them eat food? We find out that 100% of those people are going to eat food. I know in LA, you might have one or two breatharians and stuff, man. In California,
that's hilarious.
But nonetheless, everyone eats food, bro. So what I'm trying to say is, our product can get us anywhere and everywhere. So that premise of transferable skills, I start with where they're at. So usually it's like, yo, they want to grow weed, they don't want to grow salad or tomatoes. Just like when it comes to mushrooms, they don't want to grow gourmet and oyster and shiitake mushrooms. Once they hear, it's like, what, we grow magic mushrooms, sir? I'm like, no, but would you believe it? The skills are transferable, and that's what happens in my workshops. Like you can now go home and do whatever you choose to do with that information. But with my young people, I've given you enough empowerment for you to be able to go away and grow salad, which you can grow in 30 days. You can take those salad leaves, drop them in a bag, the same baggie that we got for weed, just a slightly bigger bag, and you can sell that for a few dollars. And would you believe it? Money grows on trees. Because without harvesting that whole plant, you can just harvest some of the leaves. We call it cut and come again. And when you harvest some of those leaves, more leaves grow the following week. like the plant becomes like generate an income generative stream for you. And then if you take those leaves and put them in a bag, that's one price. But if you take those leaves out of that bag and put it in a box and put some salad dressing on it, you increase the value. So it's all about developing these enterprise streams for young people. And it goes the same with mushrooms, because I've shared with them that there's mushrooms out there that are more valuable than weed if we're dealing it by the gram, by the kilo. Like if we're talking about money, making money, then I'm going to show you how to generate money without it having to be illegit. And I got nothing against weed. I got nothing against the things that are out there, but the lifestyle choices that you're making and the repercussions that come along with that. If you're doing it for the money, let me show you another means for making money. So with that said, it comes to the mushrooms as well. I meet many people that say, yo, man, I'm going Peru. I'm setting up retreats. I need to grow magic mushrooms and stuff. And I'm like, has the mushrooms co-signed this? Like, have they co-signed your mission? Because you're about to build a relationship with a living and breathing, organism. And that is just like if I'm saying, yo, I want to go out and do something and I've invited you along, but I'm telling you, yo, Keith, this is what you're eating today. This is what you're drinking. This is what you're doing. You're like, yo, man, like I'm vegan. I'm like, don't worry, we're going KFC. I'm getting you. It's like, yo, are you considering me? You look like you make decisions on my behalf. And that's what we do with the fungi, man. We're like, yo, I got this, I got land, I want to grow this. I'm like, yo, you got to do your internal surveying, you got to do the land surveying, you got to check out what the fungi's saying. All of these factors play a part when it comes to cultivating, because what you're actually really doing, bro, is cultivating a relationship with yourself, with nature, that inner world, which manifests externally. So when you're growing mushrooms, you're growing yourself. When you're growing your tomatoes, you're growing yourself. Once you start learning how to nurture, once you nurture nature, you then start nurturing the natural elements within yourself. So that's the journey that I take folks on when it comes to mushroom cultivation. I refer to it as the rice of passage. You know what I'm saying? Not a rice of passage, but a rice of passage, because I teach people how to grow mushrooms starting with brown rice. So like the fact that you can get brown rice in pretty much any store around the world, you can start cultivating mushrooms on that. But that journey into cultivating mushrooms, it starts with that day you go to the store and buy that bag of brown rice for yourself, which I've just been packing up. I've got a workshop in a couple of days, so out of town. So every time I look at the brown rice, I'm like, do you remember when I first bought you for something different? Remember? I used to buy you to cook rice, but now I buy you to transform my shit, to sort my shit out. You know what I'm saying? In a whole different way. And that brown rice journey, when you go to the store on aisle number 9 and you pick it up off the shelf and you're like, everybody in this store probably thinks I'm buying you to cook some rice back home. But I'm buying you to cultivate mushrooms, to sort out my anxiety, to sort out my depression, to sort out me building a relationship with my ancestors, to travel into these novel states of consciousness. That's why I'm buying this bag of rice today. And that's the journey that you take before you even think about growing mushrooms, before you even ingest your first mushroom that you cultivate yourself. It's about building that relationship. It's just doing that inner work, man.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a good segue too. With the shirt that I see you wearing, and your slogan is "You are a mushroom having a human experience." Break that down. What does that mean exactly?
As we say, man, it does what it says on the tin, man. It means exactly what it says. You're a mushroom having a human experience, and just to unpack it a little, if we just start at the beginning of it all, the creation of this planet as we know it, this organism we call planet Earth, it hasn't been always green and lush as it has been, because I know it's not as green and lush as it has been in the past, but at its inception, it was the third rock from the sun. If you're from that era, man, remember the TV show? It was a barren planet, and the organism, in the form of a spore, which are like the seeds of a mushroom, arrived to planet Earth on their spaceship. And their spaceship was asteroids and meteorites, and they carried passengers. The passengers were the spores, along with other key bacteria and ingredients that would kickstart life on planet Earth as we know it. Some of those spores ended up in the ocean. Some of them landed on the rock. And mushrooms, by default, are decomposers. They break down organic matter, but there wasn't any organic matter on Earth at that time outside of the rock. So when mushrooms started to break down the rock, when mushrooms eat, they do the same things that we do. They pass it out. So when mushrooms eat rock, they shit out soil. So mushrooms are the soil creators. And everybody knows how important soil is, and any and everything that comes out of the soil is connected to this initial experience. But during that period of time, the mycelium itself has weaved herself, embedded herself in the rock, in the soil, and has become and is the central nervous system of our planet. And any and everything that has come out of the soil, including us, is connected to this network. It's the Wi-Fi, it's the Bluetooth, it's the personal hotspot of the planet. All the plants, 90% of the plants are dependent upon this system, and we know how important plants are. So if there's no mushrooms, there's no fungi, there's no plants. If there's no plants, there's no us. and all the other organisms that are dependent upon the plants. So when you understand that this is a mushroom planet, any cultivator would understand it. Anybody who's into cultivating knows that we have a substrate and we inoculate our substrates. But if you can imagine that Earth is just a big piece of shit, it's the waste material, and the rocks, when they arrived, have inoculated the planet. This is a mushroom planet. Now it might sound far-fetched because people say it's water and this, that, and the other, it's earth and it's water, but it's like it's functions and operates. The operating system is the mycelium network. It's the network, and any and everything is connected to this. And if we move forward, a human's relationship with fungi is dependent upon it, because some might be familiar with what's his name? Terence McKenna. He
Right.
hypothesized, in his book Food of the Gods, about the Stone Lake theory or the Stone Lake hypothesis, the relationship that humans have had with psilocybin mushrooms, the ability for it to basically grow our brains, enhance our senses, inspiring language, inspiring, writing, inspiring this relationship of what we call human activities. There's been a lot of inspirations of it by way of ingesting psilocybin mushrooms. And then we come full circle to the here and now, and all of this latest research in this so-called renaissance is suggesting the same thing. That's what it was doing back in the days. That's what it has always had the potential to do. And the children that are currently the writers of the script at the moment, I'm saying, of this movie, are just newly discovering it. But you go back to Africa, you go back to Asia, you go back to the Americas, and indigenous people there, they be knowing about this stuff. So for me, it's just kind of coming full circle to understand that these mushrooms and plant technologies, but mushrooms being the mother of all of this, are the inception. It's the birth. She's the great mother. She produces children, and mushrooms are our children, and humans are our children. We're all extensions of this alien extraterrestrial project.
Yeah, I love it. I've heard you break that down before, but I definitely wanted people just to grasp that concept, because for one reason, I feel like there's a lot of misinformation and wrong ideas about what mushrooms are, and this is a good segue to go into Kalindi. So the first time that I did mushrooms, I was actually in Hawaii, Lahaina. There were some fires there, so I went out there to just volunteer because one of my friends lived there, and he happened to have some mushrooms, and so I did the Terrence McKenna Heroes dose, which was 5 grams. Totally didn't follow the protocol because I didn't know what the protocol was. I'm walking around with my friends and everything, and it was a cool experience. And then I went to I told you I was in Bali. So when I was in Bali, I took a trip and I happened to meet Oyi's son, and I was talking to him about mushrooms. He was asking me questions like, "Did you take wet or dry?" I didn't even know what that means at the time meant at the time. And so he kind of like gave me this look like, man, and he just started to teach me. He turned me on to Kalindi Iyi, and I just dove deep in Kalindi's teachings with like everything that I could find online. And there's certain characters and people who have an impact on your life that you're like, man, I wish I could have met that person. So the first person was Tupac. Like I grew up on Tupac, and like that's somebody that I always wanted to meet in person, but unfortunately, obviously, didn't get that chance. And then hearing Kalindi, I'm like, damn, I wish I could meet this person in like in real life, and have a conversation. And you worked directly with Kalindi. So can you tell us like who is Kalindi Iyi and just your experience with working with him?
Dope, man. I appreciate, just the space and place to speak and share about him, because when I start my workshops or presentations, that's exactly where I start. I start at the inception, where and how it all began. And then with Kalindi EE, my relationship with him started, just externally, like most folks. But I knew him as a martial artist back in the 90s and 2000s. He was the master martial artist guy, man. That's what he was known for in the African conscious community around the world. Here in the UK, he would come over like once a year, once every other year, and do workshops and martial arts demonstrations. I wasn't deep into the martial arts like that, but nonetheless, when one of the figures, especially from the States, come over, is like, in our community, we know like, oh, this, particular person's coming over. So with that said, I knew him for that. I had the DVDs and the VHSs. I had the VHSs of the demonstrations and stuff, man. So I knew his work. But what happened was, on my own personal journey, I was getting closer to understanding, about this whole mushroom and DMT realm and all that type of stuff. And I had two figures, two of my teachers at that time, man, who who are still are my teachers, who directed me to Kindi. When I was like, yo, you know anything about this mushroom stuff, DMT stuff? They're like, nah, but I know a man who does. And one of the teachers was Wayne Chandler. I'm not sure if you're familiar, the author of the book
No.
Ancient Future.
Okay.
Somewhere, yeah, you should check him out. Check out his works anyway. Wayne Chandler, Ancient Future, and he was a master. He deals with like qigong and reiki and a range of other, African fighting sciences and history and culture. And he was my go-to guy at the time. And when I was like, "Yo, mushrooms," he's like, "Let me tell you about Kindi." I'm like, "No, I know Kindi, man. He's the martial artist guy. I'm talking about mushrooms, innit? Like, not martial arts." And
Yeah.
and then another sister, and she was saying the same thing in the UK. So Wayne's from the States, my sister who run a bookstore here in the UK. When I was mentioning mushrooms and stuff to her, she was like, check this out. And she gave me the Kindi DVD. And I was like, yo, that's the same shit Wayne was talking about. I watched the DVD, spoke to Wayne. Wayne said, Leo, let me get on the phone and speak to Kindi because he's my teacher. I'm like, my teacher, Kalindi's your teacher. And he's like, yeah, my martial arts teacher. Like, he's the master martial arts guy, innit? I'm into martial arts. Like, he's the go-to guy. And about an hour or so later, Kindi was calling my phone, man. I was right here, standing right here, sitting right here, where I am, man. Slightly different, but I was right here. The phone rang, picked it up. And he's like, yo, is this Darren? Wayne said to give you a call. He says, you got an interest in mushrooms? I'm like, yeah. At that time, I actually hadn't even done mushrooms yet. I had my first psychedelic experience, but that was with Salvia divinorum. So, and had tried DMT as well. So I was like, yo, I tried Salvia, DMT. I'm trying to grow these mushrooms. I had some grow kits, but I wasn't getting no success with them. And he's like, that's really cool. He's like, yo, in fact, I'm coming to the UK for in a few weeks for this conference. And he was like, you should come along. And I was like, all right, cool. And the conference was like in Canterbury. So it's like, not in London, innit? Like a few hours outside of London. At that time, there was some challenges, but I got through those challenges, got the bread together, got the hotel, got the ticket, and then ended up going there and meeting him in person. And that was just the beginning of like the in-person relationship. So in between that conference, we was like speaking on the phone. I was sharing with him my experiences and what I'm doing. And at that time, I was working a lot. So I'm an event organizer as well, innit? So during that time, I'd invited Wayne Chandler over. I'm not sure if you feel like Phil Valentine, Bobby Hemmett,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I was one of the key players like that were inviting them over to the UK and hosting them while they was here. So I was like, yo, you're coming for this conference in Canterbury. After we're done in Canterbury, let's come back to London and do some sessions in London. Like, let me introduce this knowledge to the community because we know you for the martial arts guy. And he's like, this is the first. He goes, I've been coming back to the UK for like nearly a decade or so, but nobody's ever invited me to talk about mushrooms. And that was the beginning, bro. That was just the beginning of him being here at least once or up to 2-3 times a year in London, in Europe, and us just breaking bread together, doing events together, going to different conferences, going to different festivals. And for me, my goal was like just to be a problem, to support him and be a problem to the system that was in place here in Europe. I'm like, yo, when you come to my ends, when you come to the UK, just like let me be a problem, because they were doing all these conferences and stuff and saying that they wanted a figure like Kindi EE there. And can I find other folks? I'm like, yo, Kindi is the only brother, black man that I know that talks about this stuff. So one, he's the one. And two, if he is the one and you want more of this, you need to treat him like he deserves to be treated. So that like him having to pay and make his way to do things or to get here, where usually you invite speakers, you give them, fly them in, you put them in hotels and all of that type of stuff. And I'm like, I'll do that for my own events when I invite these speakers over. So your big damn conference, how the hell is he not being taken care of? So it was like finding my way in the space, just bogarting my way through to be an influencer in the space, to be like, yo, for the here and now, it's just Kindi doing this stuff. So let's just make sure that every conference, everything that's going on, I'll be like, yo, this is happening this time of the month. Are you available? And if he was, I'd be like, all right, cool. I'm going to tell them that like for them to invite you and to get you involved. So that was how it became, like me just trying to help and support him get a foot in the door here. And then down the line, he just inspired me and encouraged me to start presenting some of my sharings and findings, man.
Yeah.
That's how we built together.
I love it. And Kalindi's thing was, about the higher dosages and, pushing the envelope of what's possible. I remember I listened to one of his interviews, and he said, if you haven't had the experience where you said, damn, I've taken too much, you haven't taken enough. So I want to talk about like bad trips. Is there a such thing as bad trips?
Yeah, man. Well, are you there, bro? It seems like I lost you.
Yeah. Let's
Okay,
see.
cool. Yeah, man. Again, that's all perspective, in it, good and bad, and take it with a pinch of salt. But what we would tend to say or share it in a way where it's more like there's challenging experiences, bro. There are challenging experiences through it all. But with that said, it is really about having those challenges and being learning how to navigate and mitigate them. So there's minimum impact, minimum negative impact, and you learn that through experience. So through challenges, there's growth. Through stressing out our mycelium, we get fruiting bodies. Through your trauma, you come out the other end, if you do the work, like a stronger individual. Like, that's what the work in the high dose experience can support you with. So it's about putting enough fuel in the tank so you get into the places and spaces where you start doing the work, where it's not fun. It's not about bubbles and unicorns and rainbows and beautiful colors and stuff. It's like, okay, you're taking that inward journey into the unknown and into the beyond. And what can I say? Everyone's journey is unique. You're one of one. You're bespoke. So there's a collective consciousness that we can tap into and access, and you navigate that inner world of your own bespoke terrain, as well as that consciousness field that we all got access to, and it's infinite. So there's infinite possibilities, infinite places. There's infinite experiences that one could have. And Kindi was like one of very few people, if not up until that time, the only one that I knew that was taking those types of dosages and going into those realms and reporting back. You know what I'm saying? Like, coming back with tangible information, because it can be and will be overwhelming at times. And as far as remembering the experiences and being able to translate it, break it down, and make it palatable for yourself, let alone to share it with someone else, is a challenge. And that's what Kindi was doing, man. He was out here just supporting people on that journey, on that path.
Yeah. And you touched on this earlier when you were talking about you take the youth on the rites of passages, and in your like studying the African cultures and traditions, what have you found as far as like when they start exposing youth to mushrooms? And it kind of combines with this. I listened to this series called The Alchemy of Initiation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Francis Weller. It's pretty great series, but he talks about how in society, like one of the reasons why it's the way that it is because we've lost the initiation process, where there would always be a time when the youth would go off on their own and like face some sort of death and overcome that, then come back to the community, and what they brought back was always something for the community, not just for themselves, which is like very different than the way we live now. Now it's kind of like we're taught to like get things for ourselves. The game is to be sold, not told, and we've lost this community aspect. So like, when do, in Africa, or where they still use these practices of mushrooms, do they start exposing the youth to mushrooms?
Well, if we're going back as far as we can, as far as in the here and now, still to this day, it's pre-birth, bro. It's pre-birth. They're being
Mm,
introduced to this. It's like mothers are consuming these compounds while they're, you know, getting jiggy with it, all the way through to delivering the child, child being delivered. And
mm,
then what I witnessed in Southern Africa was children, as soon as they could walk, they were rocking and rolling with their mothers or their fathers and learning what their mothers and fathers were doing. So they had to learn about the bush. I was with the Bushmen, bro, in the so-called Bushmen of Southern Africa, the Khoisan and the San tribes. And every morning I was waking up, I was like, yo, man, these 2, 3, 4 year olds are rolling out with their bow and arrows, with their
mm,
little bags, the little satchels, and learning about the different herbs, learning about the mushrooms, learning about the technologies, and learning how to identify them. I say it all the time, it's child's play, bro. It's child's play. That, it's like, you need to know this stuff because this is where we're at. You need, but we're in a culture now where, as I said, I'm taking these 14, 15, 16 year olds out into the forest. They're like, what can I eat this, sir? Is this safe to eat? And it's
mm-hmm,
like talking about a blackberry, I'm like, yeah, blackberries are cool to eat. Like, just some of the basic things that I remember being taught as a child that, yeah, you can eat. Like, we've lost that. But I wasn't taught as a 2 year old. And I'm seeing the 2-year-olds on their mother's back, rolling with their fathers, going and doing this stuff, man. And when it comes to, ingesting psychoactive compounds, for the most part, by the time you hit puberty, like that's when you know about this stuff consciously, when you're proactively in the space, like that's the rites of passage, moving into manhood, moving into, womanhood. Like by then, remember, we've been taking you around since you was 2, showing you this, that, and the other. Or you see this one here, you're going into the bush today and finding it. And yeah, like you said, whatever the assignment is, you've been given an assignment, and I witnessed that. And the crazy thing about it, when I was over there, like, it's fun. The children, like the activities, it's like part and parcel of their play. I was telling them, I said to them, I work with young people in the UK, and if we really sit down and break it down, they would be envious of you, because how they're living and what they're doing, like going out hunting and, like the life skills that they're learning in Southern Africa. I was like, yo, I wish I'd been learning that when I was like, they had man stuck in a classroom with a blackboard, you know what I'm saying? And like,
Yeah.
I'm out there, as I said, I'm out here and I got to sit in class with you guys. I got to sit in the class with the 5-6-year-olds out there in Southern Africa, because I ain't got a clue. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm glad that, these customs and traditions are being passed on in a way that we still got that kind of unbroken link. So the knowledge and information doesn't get lost, as well as lost anyway, but, even lost in translation. Because, I was in the bush, bro, and I didn't have a clue, mate. I didn't have a clue. And that's what people say. Oh, you're a mushroom guy. You come from a food growing background. But I'm like, bro, it's a whole different terrain. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I was thrown out there, bro, I don't know if I would have survived. But I know those 5-year-olds would have. And that's, that's who I'm going to hang with, you know what I'm saying, to get the game from. Yeah, they've been taught that since, from early doors, man. So they know about this stuff.
I don't know how it is out there in London, but here, psychedelics are very taboo in our community. Like if it doesn't come from that book that a lot of people subscribe to, then they think it's of the devil and this and that. But in doing research, you find like, oh, this has always been a part of like our culture, and we wouldn't even have things like religion or any of that without the mushrooms. And like, can you just kind of touch on how do mushrooms relate to like spirituality and religion?
Well, that's what mushrooms are about. In that sense, I won't say so much religion, but definitely spirituality,
Yeah.
consciousness, from that lens. And yes, they definitely inspired, the major religions that we know and spiritual practices that we have out there. It's been suggested that, the ancient societies that we know of, that we would hold up, from ancient Kemet, all from north down to south, all the African traditions are dealing with some kind of plant or fungal technology as part of their spiritual system. It's a tool for communicating with the ancestors. So because we know that these are so-called ancestor cults, ancestor societies, how do they communicate with the ancestors? You find that there's a mushroom or a plant technology that they ingest in some shape, form or another, that is part and parcel of how they communicate with their ancestors. So that's their spiritual system. And we know that those spiritual systems later birth the religions that we have. They called it paganism, they called it witchcraft, they've given him all of these different names, but it's connecting with nature, connecting with ancestors. Just like you said, when you had the ayahuasca experience, the folks were like, yo, go and connect with nature, because that's what this experience unfolds. That's one of the files. It's just one of the files. Connect with connect with yourself, connect with nature, connect with other people. They're connectors, and they can connect you to the infinite spaces that exist. So, but when you start on these practical, experiences down here on Earth, it's like dealing with creation, of the planet, the creation of humanity, as I've expressed why we're mushrooms having a human experience. But then it's led us into what we would call the mystery systems. The mysteries that the experiences start to unfold for us. Once you become a good person, once you become like whatever you're experiencing, once you become, you've lightened your load, then it's going to start revealing more mysticism, within the experience. And that mysticism leads to the secret societies, leads to fraternities, leads to religion, leads to all the things that we're dealing with now. So whether it's the holy sacraments, the holy communions, the holy woods, the sacred woods, wherever you see them, something that they had to eat, smell, just know to have holy communion, to communicate with the holy, with the gods, with the angels, with the aliens, whatever school of thought you're in, just know that there was the food of the gods were in there, man. And that's the role that they played since the dawn of time into the here and now. And it's just been coded in those mystery systems, it's encoded in religion. If we're dealing with that book, as you mentioned, and the latter part of the book, when they're talking about Holy Communion and the Last Supper, that role play episode, because it's all theater, but that role playing episode is perpetuating something that they do in church now on a Sunday, where they hand out wafers and tell people to drink wine and say that you're going to have Holy Communion. But not many people communicate with the holy. I'm yet to meet a person who could say, yo, after I've done that ancient African rites of passage ceremony, what we call now Holy Communion, I actually communicate with the holy. But in Gabon, I've just been running with an elder from Gabon, in Gabon, when they bring out their holy sacrament, the sacred wood, and they chew on it, they communicate with the holy, with the ancestors. Within an hour, it's going down. In Mexico, they do there, and they bring out their sacred peyote. When they bring out within an hour, they're communicating. Within an hour, you've left the church, you're back in the house committing sins again, man. I know how it goes. So I'm not out here to bash anything, but, with that said, these technologies allow one to have true Holy Communion. And that's where the religions have got it from. And they just replace the mushrooms with a wafer. They've replaced the blue lotus fermentations with red wine, or better yet, they've not put the blue lotus in the red wine for you to have these states of experiences. So that's like what rare religion has got it all from.
Yeah. Can you talk about, like, what is that experience like when you're communing with the holy, when you're taking these, technologies, and is that experience like all internal? Are your eyes open and visually you're seeing things?
Yeah, man, all that and more, and if we bring it home before we get out there, like, you are the holy, you are the one, so the first relationship, the first form of communication is with yourself. But the version of yourself that you suppress, that version of yourself that, you shut down in some shape, form or another. So it heightens your senses, it heightens those aspects of yourself that lay dormant. And that's the first form of holy communication that one has. That that silent voice becomes louder, becomes more prominent, and you if you choose to, like you said, it's being a silence. You hear it loud and clear, and that can lead you on a pathway to communion. So it's not guaranteed. It's not like just because you eat mushrooms tonight you're going to be communicating with your ancestors. There's what some people would say set and setting. Having the right mindset, and the setting being the stage. Creating the right a complementary environment to induce communication with your ancestors, so there's things that you could do to inspire that communication if that's what you chose to do. But fundamentally, I say that all the time. Before you're like, I want to communicate with my ancestors, I want to communicate with the Anunnaki or the Natir, or it's like, all that is doable, but start communicating with yourself on a true level, in it, like knowing who you are, where you come from, what's the pros and cons of you, in it, like this is what is. That's the first level of Holy Communion, true communion, because the true communion is a union with self. It's a sacred union, the marrying of the yin and the yang, the dark and the light. And that's like the where even the role playing of marriage comes from, when we walk down the aisle, because you're meant to be walking down the aisle with your double, with your Diablo, before you walk down the aisle with any other human being. So that's the true Holy Communion that I'm like, first level that we need to get to, and then Pandora's box is opened after that, man.
Yeah, man. Nah, that's deep. I love that. What I find is that the mushrooms, basically, and just entheogens in general, in my experience so far, just show me the work that I need to do. And I the when I took ayahuasca for the first time, like, I got the healing and everything. And a couple of things it revealed was, one, compassionate, like, be more compassionate. Right. And then two, it helped to heal that relationship with moms. And when you say heal, it's not a destination. It's a journey. So you still have to do, like, the work. And, with working with mushrooms, like, over the course of this last year, they definitely played a major role in me doing, like, that work, initiating those hard conversations, and taking away the inhibition to go and do that. And so I know a lot of people, they hear magic mushrooms and entheogens and healing, and they think that something magically is going to happen to where whatever their issue was, that now it's gone and it's changed. But nah, all actuality, it empowers you to like have awareness of what it is, and then to go and do the work. Like you still got to go do the work.
Yeah. And that's it, man.
Yeah.
That's the Holy Communion, man. Communion with the unseen, those unseen parts of you, those those unheard conversations that are yet to be, yet to be had. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? So you're telling me I got to go and have this conversation with mums, with my brother, with my sister? Well, I've got to apologize. I've got to forgive. Like that's gonna serve me. And then when you realize that it does serve you, but there's a butterfly effect, there's a ripple effect that it serves your lineage, the past,
Yeah.
present, and future. So this is the work. And yeah, it's not an overnight thing. That's like, it's not a magic pill. Like it's work, man. Just like any kind of studying one is doing, but you're doing a self-study. This is a self-study thing that you're on. So, it's like, what's going to be really important is if your mother is a part of yourself, you're here due to her, and you've got
Hmm.
this relationship where you're like, because I hear it a lot of the times, man, I don't even mess with my family, man. They're dead, they're not woke. I got my tribe. We was like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what the technology has taught me is like, if you can't manage those relationships, like, and not to say that, yeah, it's all happily ever after, but it's like, it enables me, at least in my own experiences, one, to have those conversations so that my load is lightened. It don't mean like we're all kumbaya now and everybody's just all getting along and it's happily ever after. It's just like, yo, but I'm not walking around with all this baggage and burdens that weren't serving me well before. And you can actually move forward in that relationship and have this kind of like a mature conversation about things that you wouldn't have been able to have before. And that is the healing. It's not, it's, yeah, there's healing where you can actually be focusing on, the movement, moving dis-ease, physical healing from, in that regards. But like, that's what I've learned, my time in South Africa with the Bushman. Are you there,
Yeah.
bro? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
There's the camera dropped out. Let's see.
cool, no
Okay.
props. The the Bushmen of South Africa, they have what's known as the healing dance or the trance dance. And basically, they get into these enhanced states of consciousness, which we call altered states, but they call it, when they broke it down, it's enhanced states of consciousness. And
Hmm.
in traditionally, they use plant technologies as well to invoke the dance. And they activate what's known as this num energy, which lies in the pit of their stomach, rises up through the crown, and the priest, so-called shaman, can do the healing work. And I'm saying that to say that they mitigate dis-ease by way of going inside the body. They do an MRI scan. People know about MRI scans?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're back. Yeah. People know about MRI scans. So there's an indigenous approach to doing these MRI scans through dancing to activate healing energy, which they can remove the dis-ease within one's body. So there's like a physical healing that can be done, but there's also like the medical physical work that's done, that you don't have to consciously do it, but you're doing it. And that can be dancing, having conversations, going through that process of integrating, your experiences and having conversation with folks who kind of get it because they've been on the other side and seen some of that unseen and had some of those unheard conversations. And that's how the healing, the butterfly effect of it works.
Yeah. You still hear me though, right, bro?
Still hear you, yeah, your picture's
All
freezing
right.
and stuff, but I can hear.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
wrapped
Here we
that
go.
up by just sharing this because I shared that San Bushman healing dance and the connections with psychoactives because they all tie in. But the latest research is suggesting that mushrooms can deal or heal epigenetic trauma, And if we're talking about epigenetics, that's like how, through your genes, trauma is passed on. Not just your hair color and your eye color and all them things are passed on, but trauma is also passed on. But what I tend to share with folks in our school of thought is, like, if we focus on healing that's required to deal with our trauma and it's kind of trauma based, trauma led, that's what we're going to keep creating. We've got like the healing dances that I witnessed and have been studying for the last decade plus of the healing folks. Like, they don't focus on the trauma. And then the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, is that, like, the science is suggesting, is that psychedelics in one night in some cases, 2 to 3 nights in other cases, with the right support, can remove the trauma that has been inflicted on you, not just your generation, but going back for 400-500 plus years. And as you know,
Mm.
bro, wherever we are in the world, as long as we look this way, we've gone through over 400 to 500 years of trauma that we didn't and we didn't know what we was getting into. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
know the repercussions of it, and to this day, we still ain't had any support, real support from the powers that be in addressing that. So we walk around with all of this baggage, all of this load, and it's become the norm. We don't, it's like just being an alcoholic, being a crack addict, and not knowing any difference because you were just born with it in your system. And it can be dealt with through dancing and healing technologies like mushrooms. Like,
Yeah,
and as you know, as a people, we love a dance. We love to dance with, and
it's a
you know, like,
fact.
to dance. So when I realized it's that simple, when people say the healing work is deep, it's like it's deep, but it's a lot easier than we think, and it's actually akin to and aligned with what we do naturally. And even if it is on a Friday night when you've had a hard week and your boss has been on your case, your baby mother's been giving you problems, and this, that, and the other, and you just want to go listen to some music, you know, smoke something, you know, like how healing is that? But done in the right setting, you can learn how to mitigate that so you don't keep coming back to that and keep having to living in that loop. And
Yeah,
this is like the true healing work that we can do using mushrooms and other plant technologies once we become consciously aware of it. And yeah,
yeah.
bit of mushrooms, a bit of dance, and you know, you can do this.
Nah, I love it, man. I definitely have it on my list. I want to get over there to the motherland and experience those type of, ceremonies and be where like they never stopped their traditions, you know?
Go, bro. Adam and Eve, I say it all the time. I met Adam and Eve, bro. The
Yeah.
first people ever that we know to so-called human beings on this planet. They still are living and breathing. You find them in Southern Africa, as I said, the Khoisan, the Bushmen; in Central Africa, the so-called Pygmy people, the Aka, the Baka, the Buti, the Babongo. These are the groups who introduced the world to Iboga. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Ibogaine, that active compound in Iboga, which is useful for heroin addiction and all the rest of it, which is key to our liberation because we've got communities all around the world addicted to opiate drugs. And I'm saying that to say that they still do the same ceremonies, bro, that they've been doing since the beginning of the time. You
Yeah.
know, it works. I'm saying is it works. Like, so we're looking to modern science for our solutions, and those machines and devices and the pharmaceutical industries are not really there and set up for us to do the true healing, man. And yeah, it's Sankofa, man. We need to look back to see where we came from to know where we're going, man. And that's why
Man,
I went.
that's a fact. I'm sure you're familiar with Tony Broder.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. So, I had him on the show, and the show's called Young Black and Vegan. Obviously, it's not just all about being a vegan. Like, I'm actually never promoting that anybody becomes a vegan. It's just about providing the information, and it's about holistic healing. And so, obviously, a part of that is the nutrition, what you put in your body, the mental health, spiritual. But I think that there's a huge part as well as knowing our history. Like, that's going to help heal. And so, he calls himself a memory recovery specialist. And so, you know, like going back, like you said, Sankofa, and learning these things, like it hasn't changed. The same things that our ancestors were using to thrive, like we can use, but
Mm,
we've been kept from it for the most part. So now,
yeah, man.
got the internet. We can find any information that we want, and it can just like aid us and our families and our lineages going forward.
Most definitely, man. And big up, yeah, Anthony Browder, man. He's one of my early inspirations. That's like probably like one of the first books that I bought. You know, I actually know the first book I bought consciously was Message to the Black Man, and
Yeah.
then How to Eat to Live Out, because Nation of Islam, you know, through rap music that inspired me to really start seeking knowledge of self by way of Ice Cube and Public Enemy at the time. But then that led me more into the Pan African side of things, and then yeah, survival strategies, all of them, yeah, Tony Browder books and that. Yeah, that was it, man. That was it. That was
Yeah,
it. That
no,
was the big.
nah,
They're sitting there,
he's incredible, man.
their second shelf, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those people that I feel like he needs to be a household name. I would love to see him like on Joe Rogan podcast or something. Just like he
Yeah,
has so much wisdom and knowledge. So, anybody, if you don't know who Tony Broder is, like I implore you to get his books, Broder Files, Volume 1, Volume 2, and now Valley Contributions to Civilization, like game changers
yeah,
in
man.
every way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm looking forward to diving into your series, Psychedelics in Africa. Can you just talk about that and where can people find it?
Yeah, man. So psychedelics in Africa is like where it all started for me, because as I got into this journey of psychedelics. Growing up in East London, psychedelics for me was like what the white boys that I went to school with were into, man. And it was like this white hippie thing. There was this narrative that was presented to me that it wasn't ours. And as I explored, trying to work it out for myself, I came across quite a few findings that I started sharing with Kindi, because I knew he was, I was in the background just doing what I was doing, just a book nerd in it. And then when I was sharing stuff with him, he was like, "Man, you're cracking some codes now, man." So I was just following his breadcrumbs, started cracking my own codes, and that's what Psychedelics in Africa, the webinar series, is all about. It's like starts at the inception of the first things that I found out about psychedelics in Africa, because I was told when I was exploring or went to that breaking convention, that first conference where Baba was presenting, I was told that, in Africa, you guys have got a psychedelic, there's one. And I was like, right, Africa's big in it. And you're telling me there's like one psychedelic on the whole continent. And like, we're not saying that, but we just know of one. And that one is Iboga. And I said, as I mentioned, Ibogaine, the compound, we're using it for heroin addiction and stuff like that. So I'm like, what is there heroin addicts running around in Gabon and in the Congo? Like, is that what this thing is about? Because I'm not sure if that's the case. And I wasn't sure. And I was asking those guys who were the academia guys and the scientists and the researchers, like, so what are they using psychedelics for in Africa? And I wasn't hearing too much, man. So Kindi was the only person who was sharing that, and I soaked up every single one of the DVDs, every single one of them, that I could get my hands on, and I had him around a lot of the time. But I was like, let me start seeing if I can find out some other things. So my goal was to go back as far as I could. Tony Browder, Monoko Rashidi, all these guys were the ones who taught me about the Twa and, the so-called pygmy people. And so I'm like, well, I know you've got the Twa and them man in Central Africa. You've got the Khoisan Bushmen of Southern Africa. Let me see what they say about psychedelics. Let me go back as far as I can, find the first people and just start moving forward. And wherever they moved, let's see wherever they moved, if there's more traditions and customs that talk about it. And bro, that's what I do. I take people on a chronological, geographical journey on the continent of Africa into the diaspora and share with you that from the dawn of time, we've been using these psychoactives. We haven't stopped using it. To the here and now, you're going to find these same groups doing the same things, getting the same results. It's a tool for communicating with our ancestors. Yes, we do use it for healing and other modalities. It's the same thing that we use this for, mate. Your iPhone or your Android phone, whatever you use this for, just know that we use the same organic technologies. It's ET phone home. When I'm traveling, I phone my family on this. When I'm traveling, I use Google Translate. I use the Maps app. I use the Weather app. All of these apps and technologies that we use on the phone, that's what they're using it for. It's a tool for divination, man. So when they're like, yo, when's it going to rain? When's their water's going to be coming? Like, yo, let's use these plant technologies to find out what's going on. That's what they do. And they got a range of different practices from Central Africa, the Nile Valley civilization, into Kemet, back to Kemet. And when I say back to Kemet, as I mentioned, bro, as you know, I was in Southern Africa, South Africa in particular. I was chilling with the family of Kwedu Matwa. And when I was rolling with them and other elders, all they kept on doing was welcome me back to Kemet. When the brother said it by the third time, I was like, bro, we're in South Africa, innit? Because you keep welcome to Kemet. And I'm hearing you loud and clear, but I've been to Kemet, but that's why I come to South Africa. Why? And he's like, yeah, bro, as above, so below. What you find in the north, we got down here in the south, but nobody ain't really talking about that. Because you come to the right place where it all started. And yeah, they got it there too, man. So for me, it was like literally, I've been researching this stuff for the last 15 plus years. And it's like, I need to go to these places and or return to these places with this new lens. Because I've been to places before, but not with the mushroom lens. Now let me return there with that lens and see what I can find. And basically, that's what my series is all about. My findings, man. It's definitely due an upgrade because it's now about 5 years old. Maybe about 4 years old now. And since in the last 4 years, the amount that I've come across, as I said, these Southern African mysteries that I've just come across. Jeez. So with that needs, so you can find it on my website. So what I tend to do, I've got a 5-hour series online. It's over 5 hours. And then I travel around teaching. So I've got like Psychedelics in Africa. And although it's always the same title, it's like depending on where I'm going, who I'm talking to, what their interests are. I've got different spin. I take people on different journeys. I've got a quick hotspot one where I can just take you around the continent, starting in Central, going to North, East, South, and West. Or we can say, let's just focus on Southern Africa. Let's just focus on Kemet. Let's just focus on, let's focus on the goddess mysteries. Let's just focus, just different mysteries within the mysteries. And it's all to do with psychedelics in Africa. So that's what I present. It's on the website, darrenlebaron.com. and you can bring me to a neighborhood close to you. And that's what I do, man. That's all I do now, man. Just teach people about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to dive in, man. Do you ever come out here to the States and teach?
Yeah, man. I've spent some quality time out there in the States. Right now, it's not on the agenda just because it's just not on the agenda. But
Yeah.
I done a nice 3 year period of doing some cross country stuff, man, from the down south, east coast, west coast, in the middle, and come back round again. So I invested a lot of time and energy into the Caribbean. That's where my heritage goes back to, first generation here in the UK I am, and then my family's from Barbados. There's some stuff
Mm-hmm.
going on in Jamaica. So, and I'm very keen to invest more in the motherland, more than America. No disrespect, So right
Nah,
now,
let me tell
yeah,
you, and I feel you 1,000%. No, no.
so
So,
it's like in the past, I've spread myself thin, trying to be in loads of places, excited by the journey and the travel. But I'm like, do you know what? Let me go back to the source again. So that's where, at least for the next couple of years, man, I'm going to be kind of like returning, investing more. Because again, it's just like a journey for me, bro. It's like there's still a lot that I want to learn. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
And let me go to the source. Let me learn from Adam and Eve, innit? Let me learn from the first peoples.
yeah. It are tours with Darren Le Baron in Africa something that's going to pop up in the future that we can sign up for?
Oh yeah, man. So we've done some private group stuff. And actually, I'm going Cornwall, so that's why I'm leaving today. I'm packing my bags to go Cornwall. Cornwall's the west coast of our little island, or
Okay.
open, I like to refer to it. And it's like our most ancient lands that we have here, and it's connections with Kemet and connections with the Phoenicians and the Twa, the so-called Pygmy people. And there's a lot of people when I travel to Africa, when I travel to the Caribbean, they're like, "Yo, man, it's not on my budget. It's not on my, it's not in my remit to be able to reach this." I thought, let me come home for a little bit and do some
Mm-hmm.
UK stuff just to make sure, because when you're not at home, people forget about Dre, as they say.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, it is. Like, all right, what, you've forgotten about us? You've forgotten about home. So for now, I'm gonna be doing a lot of stuff in and around the UK, in and around Europe, inspired by Runoko Rashidi for the most part. Looking at those African influences in Europe, but also looking at the psychedelic connections with them. So it's like I'm just going back to the lessons that I learned 20, 30 years ago and bringing the psychedelics, infusing it into it and just seeing what I can find and taking people on walks and talks and tours of those places. And then through my going back and forth from South Africa and West Africa, being in a place where I would then feel comfortable in bringing some groups. So we'll be like, yeah, man, we got everything secured now. So like, let's start inviting groups over. But I just
yeah,
encourage people to just go in it, just go. Like, we need an army. We need an army. If I do it, I can't do it by myself. So I need other
right.
folks, other code breakers in it, other code breakers that can go and be like, yo, I went there on a family trip, but when I was out there, I found this, and let's just start breaking bread. And then we can do like some seasonal stuff, man, and make it get it cracking.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going over there. Now, when you're over there, do you already know people, or is it just kind of like you're talking and divine synchronicities, you find who you're supposed to find?
Yeah, it's like that, bro. It's more like that. A lot of places I don't know anyone, man. And like I said, I go with this. You know what I'm saying? I got the organic technology and the synthetic
Mm-hmm.
technology. And between the Google Translate, ironically, I go back to the archives, my library. I'm pulling out information, being like, all right, I know I need to get to this place. I map it out like
Mm-hmm.
there. And then, bro, what I do, literally, I take one day at a time. I used to try and plan things like, I got to go here, I got to do that. I just have like my three things that I want to achieve, or 3 places that I go, and I take one day at a time. Because when you take one day at a time, you become very more present. And then what happens is the magic starts to happen. You start connecting with people. So if too many times I plan stuff, and then you meet somebody who says, yo, tomorrow we can jump in a car and go to the ancient pyramids of Southern Africa.
Yeah,
And I'm like, what? Ancient pyramids
yeah.
in South Africa? Man, I had planned to go here. I got to cancel those plans. So I don't make any more plans, bro. And I just like let the divine, mushroom, ancestral AI, meaning ancestral intelligence, just do its thing, man. And yeah, things happen, man. Things happen.
I love it. I love it, man. I got just a couple of questions someone submitted if you got time, and then I'll let you get out of here. I know you had a long day. Someone said, this is from Mandy. How do you know if the mushrooms are doing anything slash working on deeper things and not just feeling high?
Well, you know about it through your experience. It's through experience. If you've experienced the mushrooms and then you start moving into the high dose experience, trust me, you know about it. It's not I'm not sure. I've got to believe. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said, and you quoted him, is like, I ain't doing that shit again. This shit is like that, like, and that's when you start doing the work, because it's working now. And what it's
Yeah.
making you do face to face with those demons, with that shadow work you got to do, whether it's that look in the mirror of you need to work on yourself, or you need to have those conversations with folks. Like, it starts there, and then it moves you into deeper places and spaces. But with that said, it works by default. It works on your default mode network, in the sense where just eating mushrooms is doing the work, man. Growing mushrooms, you're doing the work. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, but there's a fast tracking process that you can have when you start ingesting the higher dosages of it. Like I said, them young boys just going out to the forest, taking their shoes off and walking barefoot on the soil is doing the healing work. Simple as like that. Like, you're doing it. Like, and as long as you understand, that it doesn't happen overnight, and then you kind of like make your notes, make it as tangible as you can for you, meaning, okay, I'm taking mushrooms to do this particular healing work, meaning I want to heal this relationship with my father, or I want to build this relationship with my father who's no longer physically here, who's passed away, and I still have anger or bitterness, and or vice versa, and I want to repair that. If you're going in focus, like, yeah, again, that's something that's not going to happen overnight, but every time that's the intention and the trajectory of, where you're taking this, just know that you're already kind of hacking yourself. They call it biohacking, all that type of stuff, neurohacking, whatever you want to call it. It's like you're building new neurological pathways to create new memories. That's what the science is saying. That's what microdosing is all about, where you're not even getting high. It's not even like, oh, am I just getting high? You don't even feel what's going on, but it's going on. It's working in the background. And that's like, just takes a little bit of research if you want to know more about, what it does in the brain, what it does in building new neurological pathways, affecting your genetics. And if we know how important the genes are, that's where the memories are stored, how it affects the blood. And in the blood is your ancestral line. It's just like, all I'm saying is this as well. I'm saying a lot, but I'm also saying that to say this. In Africa, they're not trying to break all of that down, bro. That's mumbo jumbo. Or like, what molecule, what this is like, no, bro. When I went to Africa, they're like, bro, drink this, do this. They were, and me, I'm like, I'm still got that Western, like, so what's in there? How did you, like, you're asking all these stupid questions for, like, this shit works. Like, this is what we've been doing. So the trials have been done and they can vouch for it. How? Through experience. And that's the way that through experience, man.
Yeah. So it's in a sense, you just kind of got to let time pass and then connect the dots in hindsight and recognize the differences and changes that have happened.
And in most cases, when you do your hero journey for the first time, you do it proper, like you know that night, that, it's not going to happen that night. It's not healed. You're not healed that night, but oh shit, this is the beginning of that work that I've been thinking I need to do, or I've been putting off. And it's like, okay, I get it. And I've got testimony after testimony of myself and other folks that, can vouch for that, man. Like, I didn't get into mushrooms for healing work. Just know this, bro. I got into mushrooms to activate my spider senses. I've been wanting to be Spider-Man since a child, tapping into that inner child energy and the hero energy. That's what I got into it for. And when I had my experiences, like, that's there, ready and waiting for you. But you do have to do some of this healing work too. That's part and parcel. How you activate your powers, so it's like, okay, so all right, cool, I'm on that journey too.
I love it. And you kind of touched on this, but the next question was, what's the procedure like? Do you set an intention before you're working with the mushrooms, and what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, man. And as I said, if you understand that you're building a relationship with a living and breathing organism, my first step is, one, understand as best as you can what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you can, learn how to cultivate, because the discipline required to cultivate mushrooms and learn about mushrooms is taking, just like I said, if there's some sister that, I'm interested in, and I'm trying to let her know that I'm interested in her, the more I learn about her, the more I find out what she likes to eat, where she likes to go. And then I'm like, when I say, I've like picked her favorite restaurant to go to, and, she could be like, wow, look at this guy, taking the time out to really find out about me. Like, that's what you do. That's what I encourage people to do with mushrooms, like that's really important. And then that leads you to, before you even think about ingesting them, you need to then consider the setting, as I mentioned, and that's like, what mindset are you in? Where's your head at with this? Why are you doing this? Because some people don't know why they're doing it. Some people, I hit a festival and somebody says, "Here, here's some mushrooms. Take some mushrooms." You know, like people's entry to this is different. So it's like the setting is where your mindset is at. Just making sure that you're in a good headspace. You're going to be nervous. You're going to be anxious. All these things are normal. You're not going to remove and mitigate all of those things, but you're not going into it, you know, after having a big argument, you know, you're mad. You're not on your 2-pack in it, me against the world, mad at the world kind of vibe. Like going to like feeling blessed. That's the mindset. And the setting is being in the right environment. You know, Baba Kindi, you know, educated us to do the journey of the alone into the alone. So basically, you're taking mushrooms by yourself. And obviously, you're thinking, by yourself? I've never done mushrooms before. Yeah, you're by yourself in the room, but in the environment space, you've got your sitter. You know, you've got that person who's in your front room, just making sure that everything's going to be all right, that you're not going to try and go to the toilet and it's turned into a vacuum portal place and you ain't got a clue and you need somebody to hold your hand and get you there. That person's there for you. If you need someone to talk to and, you know, have a word with, they're there for you. But their job is basically to get you back in your room so you can have this experience to take that inward journey. And there are different approaches to the setting, but that's just the setting that I was introduced to. Being by yourself in the dark, no lights, no stimulants to have that inward journey. But who am I to tell you what to do? If you want to have music, if you want to have your disco lights on, if you want to have your favorite playlist, like the choice is yours, but it's about creating a setting that is complementary to make you feel comfortable. So once your mindset is there, you're in a comfortable space, you got your favorite teddy bear, you got your lucky boxer shorts on, like you then partake. But then the past or the post experience is what they call the integration. So you've done your preparation, you've had the experience. How do you integrate the experience? And there's loads of ways of integrating the experience. I guess the most easiest, important one is being able to have a conversation with somebody if and when you need to. And that person needs to be on the other side of an experience with you where they're doing just what you're doing now, bro. Like, yeah. Because you might see some profound new things that you've not, that when you try to explain it, it doesn't make any sense. It could be that far from just, I can't find the words to explain it. And you need to be around people who know that I know what you're talking about when you can't find words to explain. Not when you've got someone who doesn't know, like, that doesn't make sense. What you're saying doesn't add up, and makes you feel uncomfortable and vulnerable in sharing that type of stuff. So that's a big part of it, you know, the integration. Dance and movement is a big part of integration, you know, so there's different ways of integrating the experience. Some people, if they've already got a therapist and go to therapy, that's the way of integrating your experiences, just being able to conversate and have professional people support you with that. And but the most part is like doing your homework. And I mean, when you have the experience and they say, go talk to mum, go talk to your brother and share this, do the homework, follow through on your assignments, you know, like, like the best integration. Like, and when it's like, okay, it lightens your load here, then when you go back in, you get some new assignments, man, and like it becomes easier ish,
yes, yeah, because it's levels. It's always more, you know what I mean, as long as we're here. But man, Darren, thank you. I'm looking forward to diving into your series, and you got an open invite on the platform whenever, you know, you want to come talk or you got something new to promote. I'm super new to mushrooms. I've been working with them for like less than a year and a half now, but mycology is like the most exciting and interesting thing to me. So I'm gonna be learning more. I'm sure I'm gonna have some more questions. But yeah, man, appreciate your time, dropping some knowledge, and you know, sharing some space with us.
Cool, bro. No, I appreciate the, you know, the invitation to come and share with you and your audience. It's always good to check in. And yeah, man, I do look forward to coming back to United Snakes of America in the future. You know what I'm saying, I had a good time.
Yeah.
Wait, you said LA?
Yeah, I'm in LA right now. So born and raised in LA, been back for like a year, but like I said, my heart is in Bali, and you know, just outside of this country. So I might catch you in Africa before you make
Yeah.
it to the States.
Well, I just stay tuned, man. There's going to be some information hot off the press, you know, by the end of the year at least, about what's happening in Africa. And even if it's not direct with me, when you go there, at least I can plug you into the folks that that open a pathway for me.
For sure, for sure. Well, yeah, man, I will touch bases with you, and man, thanks again. Where can people follow you and find you?
Cool, man. It's basically darrenlebaron.com. DarrenLeBaron.com, that's the website. And from the website, you can get access to all the social media. And if you go on the social media anyway and just type in Darren Le Baron, you're going to see my animated head with mushrooms growing out of it. That's me. Follow, like, subscribe. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, RedTube, all wherever you can find Darren Le Baron. I'll be there, man.
Yeah, and definitely check out his series Psychedelics in Africa: The Untold Story. You can find that on his website. Shout out to our sponsor, Connect Chocolate, and we'll catch y'all on the next episode of Young Black and Vegan. Peace.
Cool, brother. Peace. Keep up the good works, man.
All right, likewise, bro. Appreciate you.